Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. So let me make sure I am up. I only want to do this once. That's why I'm doing it live. Fuck it, we'll do it live. We'll do it live. That's a Bill O'Reilly quote. I'm gonna have to show that one day. Bill O'Reilly loses his shit. It's amazing to watch. It's similar to Lawrence O'Donnell losing his shit on that on the clip in between. I wanted to talk about Colin Kaepernick. Colin Kaepernick. I remember this starting going back several months. I don't necessarily watch the NFL, so it's not something that's burst into my awareness immediately when he started to doing it. For those who don't know, Kaepernick is the guy with the power fro that decided to kneel during the Pledge of Allegiance. You know, during the games, they start off with this kind of patriotic thing. And Kaepernick silently left his own devices, took a knee in front of a stadium of thousands. Kaepernick took a knee. One of the guys that worked with me was like, I don't see the point. What's the point? This is also one of the guys who didn't necessarily understand this thing of how African Americans function within the country. So from our standpoint, I see somebody shot in California. I see somebody shot in North Dakota. I'm living in Richmond, Virginia. Guess what? To me, that person is no difference. It would be no difference than if that person was shot in Richmond, Virginia. He's an African American. We see ourselves as somewhat united on this front. We may have disagreements and everything else, but if you shoot us and if you kill us, and if there's no penalty for that violence, and we look at the stats and we can see that we're shot far more based upon percentages than our counterparts, you can understand we're going to have some feelings about that, particularly when there doesn't seem to be any justice from the judicial system. The apparatus, the legal apparatus that is supposed to deal with these things, is supposed to keep society balanced by having this idea of justice. It's fair. It's a fair society. If you get shot, if you get injured, if somebody steals your property, if you are offended in some way, the justice system is going to work for you just as if it will work for anyone else. We found that's not true. One African American after another was shot and killed, and there was no repercussions for that actions. Michael Brown. Michael Brown wasn't the one who was choked, and Michael Brown was killed in Ohio. The other African American that was strangled to death by a maniac with a badge. Mind you, he had other offenses on his record already, but he was able to choke a man to death in broad daylight. I think when Michael Brown, the officer, said his big black arms, his big black arms, he was wielding big black arms. I had to shoot him. I had to put him down. I didn't have a choice. Clean shoot. Tamir Rice, 12 years old. They killed a goddamn 12-year-old. If you ever watch the video, he gets out of his car and within a few seconds, Tamir Rice is dead. The guy they shot in Walmart, he's in Walmart playing around with one of the devices that they had in Walmart. The cop, within a few seconds, murders him. The homeless man, the naked homeless man, he was naked. He wasn't holding a gun. The guy the cop shot that was in the car, the cop said, get your license. He goes to get his license. The cop shoots him. So what the fuck are you doing? You shot me. Well, you moved. You told me to get my license. Now, sane, rational people in a society seeing themselves murdered to this degree when it's like 4 times more than everyone else. We're 13% of this population. How are you murdering us at this rate? Now, understand what I'm saying. At this rate, we're basing this off percentages. Whites are murdered in degrees far more, if you're talking about numbers. Policemen are maniacs. Whites often think that they're protected from this. You are not. You're not. They will shoot you. They will steal your property just like they would do anyone else. Yes, they maybe do this more to us from a percentage standpoint, but if you're looking at the numbers, the United States, the police in the United States murder people at a rate that outpaces the rest of the Western world in spades. It's not even close. You're talking about like 1,000 murders a year from cops. From cops. You have a militarized police force in this country. No other country has that shit, at least not in the West. That's us. For all the protestations or for all of the accolades of freedom and justice and all this other stuff, you have a police state. By definition, you have a police state. There's no consequence for the behavior of cops. You lock up more than any other country on this planet. You have 5% of the world's population with 25% of the prison population in your jails. That's not freedom. That's something else. That's something else. So I can imagine a football player, in this case, the guy with the power afro. He says to himself, I do a trivial thing for millions of dollars. There is nothing more trivial than throwing a pigskin down the football field. A grown man playing a child's game. And they give me millions of dollars for it. I am aghast at what takes place in the wider society. I am aghast by this. I need to do something about it. What can I do about it? What about a silent protest? If the country is not going to stand up for me, then I am not going to stand up for it when they're doing these accolades. I'm going to take a knee. Now, people say, what's the point of this knee? People say this is pointless. He's wasting his time, etc., etc. And yet we're still talking about that knee. And not just talking about the knee. They're losing money for what he's doing. They're losing money for what he's doing. It is rational as rational can be for a person to look at their society and say, I need to do something about it. Pretending as if the wider society doesn't exist and I am playing a child's game for millions of dollars. It makes perfect sense to me. It makes perfect rational sense to me that somebody who cares about other people who are like him, who have a sense of the wider world, who may even consider himself to be somewhat of a Christian. I've heard reports of that. But ultimately has this thing of the wider world of, I need to make a statement. I need to draw attention to this. I am a football player. I have thousands and millions of people looking at me. The least I can do is make a statement. The brutality of a statement. How brutal is a statement? I, as a human being, am not on board with what the society is doing. How dare he say he's not on board with what our society is doing? How dare he say that? Mind you, we're murdering people abroad. Mind you, we're killing our own citizens. We're locking our own citizens in cages. But the problem in this is Kaepernick. He's the problem. The guy who's pointing a finger and drawing a statement or drawing, essentially making a point of, look at the vagaries of our culture and our society. Look how violent we are. We're apes. We're apes. I'm throwing a pigskin down the football field. You guys want to play this game or look at this as some kind of pretending as if the wider society doesn't exist. I am not going to let you do that. I'm going to take a knee. It's not me yelling at the top of my lungs. It's not me doing anything wild or outrageous. I'm taking a knee. How brutal is that knee? When a man creates a statement or just makes a statement, I as an individual citizen am not on board with the things that this society is doing. And I am going to do so in silent protest. And that silent protest, see other people who say that guy's right. That guy's absolutely right. I am also going to join in the silent protest. You have 2, you have 10, you have 100. Then you have people all across the United States in high schools and colleges taking knees during the Pledge of Allegiance. You're not going to pretend as if the wider society doesn't exist. You're not going to pretend as if the vagaries that take place in that society doesn't exist. Even here, even in this game, even in this trivial game that we're about to play, you will be brought to attention. You will be made aware of what's taking place out there in the most silent way possible. I am just going to kneel during the Pledge of Allegiance. Malcolm X, going back in the civil rights era, the 60s, 70s, and 60s, he used to kind of joke at this thing about the sit-ins. You know, like, this guy's sitting in. What does that do? What are you doing? You're just sitting in. Who cares? You're just sitting in. He didn't get the brutality of saying no. The brutality of saying, I am against what you guys are doing. I am not on board with what you guys are doing. What you guys are doing is wrong. What you're doing is wrong. And yes, I'm playing a trivial game. Yes, I just throw a pigskin down the field. But at the very least, I am going to take a knee and make a statement that what you're doing is wrong. I'm not on board with this. The sit-ins were the same. They were considered to be this vulgar form of protest where these people are sitting in other people's space. There is a brutality to sit-ins. You're telling your society no. Your society has taken on this idea that African Americans are somehow inferior, that society is just this way. These people are more violent. These people are criminals. These people are drunks and alcoholics. These people, there's something wrong with these people that keeps them in this particular station in our society. Our advantage in the society is justified by how those people are. It's a society seeking to justify racial discrimination. The sit-ins were brutal. They essentially said no. It was peaceful. They were quiet, but they were brutal. It was a rebuff of the normal trend of society. We're not on board with this. We're not going to pretend as if this is all kumbaya and if our society is great and you're telling everybody freedom and justice. We're not on board with this. That's all Kaepernick is doing. It started a conversation. I guess the main question becomes, should there be a distinction between public figures and the things that takes place in the wider public? That's an interesting question. It's an interesting question. Now, here's the other point that I find immensely interesting. They can't put him on a team. He can't find a team. Now, let's take this from a different context. Oh, by the way, if you can tell, I am immensely on board with Kaepernick. I think he's fucking amazing. I think he's fucking amazing. To do that in front of millions of people, knowing you're going to get the ire and disdain of a certain segment of the population and say, I don't give a shit if you're disdain for me. They're killing us. They're killing us. Yes, I'm going to take a knee. You're not going to stand for me. I'm not going to stand for you. Yeah, I'm on board with that. I agree. I agree profusely. The second part to this, though, is capitalism. Yes, capitalism. The NFL is a profit-making enterprise. Those teams, the goal of the NFL is to make cash. Those players are making millions and millions of dollars. They're doing so because the NFL can generate millions and millions of dollars. So you have a team that's somewhat of a private entity. It's a corporation. It's a company. And that company hires NFL players to play on their team. What happens when you don't want to hire an NFL player? Because you know that it may adversely affect your profits. Meaning players may not, or people may not show up if your players are kneeling because they're kind of rebuffing this idea of America. What happens? What happens? Now, from a capitalistic standpoint, you can understand that there's a disincentive for a company to bring Kaepernick on. There's a disincentive. I am a company. I want to generate as much cash as possible. Do I want to bring somebody on that's going to keep away people from my team or from my coming to my games, or may turn people off of my games? The people are kind of doing this thing of hire Kaepernick, protesting in sense of hiring Kaepernick. I think those people should have been protesting a long time ago, not just for Kaepernick, but at the very least what he's standing for is something decent. I'm making this point that we're in a capitalistic enterprise. Those teams have a vested interest in doing things to maximize their profit. If what they're doing, meaning if who they're hiring is going to somehow not maximize their profit and somehow take profit away because they're making a political statement, you can understand that those teams have a vested interest in not doing that. Meaning Kaepernick may have a long time to wait before he gets on your team. I suspect that he knew that before he did that. Part and parcel to the reason I think he's fucking awesome is because I think he full well understood that what he was doing was going to draw heat and draw attention. The entire point of it was to draw attention. But I think he also understood it was going to draw a certain amount of negative attention. Who cares about the negative attention? People are being murdered. And the society is giving it a free pass. I have nothing but love for the guy. Nothing but love for the guy. But those are the dynamics at work. You have a person who's saying no to this particular system, and then you have a capitalistic enterprise who says this guy is going to cost us money if we bring him on. That's the play. That's the interplay at work. Now, people are right-wingers are kind of making this point of, oh, this guy just wasn't a good player and all this other stuff. Bullshit. Bullshit. Certainly he's adequate enough to be on a team. Let's be honest. Let's be honest. This boils down to this kind of profit motive. This has nothing to do with skill. This is everything to do with profit. So, let's see. Community control of police now demands civilian-led policing. Yes, that's true. Cops shouldn't... It's like, who cops the cops? Who's the police for the policemen? Yeah. Miss America, he didn't make the NFL about him. The NFL made him the issue with their ridiculous response to his actions. Yeah, this is kind of my point where I'm saying the brutality of peace, or the brutality of him taking a knee. It's just a statement. I'm not on board. I don't like what's taking place. The statement itself had a certain level of epicness to it, and it resonated. It resonated because it was true. What he was doing was right. What he was doing was right. Maybe not from a fiscal standpoint. Who gives a shit? Money's not real. He's doing it from a moral standpoint of, this is wrong. I don't like what our society is doing. You shouldn't be able to kill a black man in the street, a cop, and there'd be no consequence for that action. Alright, I am going to end this because I have one more before I leave. I'm going to play chess today. I'm looking forward to it. I am absolutely looking forward to it. I didn't feel like playing the week before last, but oh man, I feel like playing this week. Somebody's going to take an L. So, alright guys, I'll be back on with one more story in a few. Oh, if you enjoy the content, feel free to share, rate, subscribe, etc., Patreon, the works.